Welcome to the MBVS show. Boom! Mind, body, voice, soul, baby. Talking mental wellness with the best in the game. I'm your host, Mark Hayford, but I am surrounded by my far away friends, far away in locale, but very close to my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the best of the best. We're talking mental wellness. Let's start with the man who's got all the books, and he's written he's about to be a five-time author, trauma bereavement specialist, in the game for 30 years, Dr. Norman Freed.
Woohoo!
Hey, when you want to be too legit to quit, you have to have a neuroscientist on your squad, okay? And we got one. She's a professor. Easy for you to say. Dr. Haley Nelson.
Hey.
TEDx speaker. She does voiceovers. Maybe you've heard her on your television all the way from the West Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Tasia Valenza.
Yellow.
What does my friend not do? She does podcasts. She does acting. She's a children's author. She's utterly bombastic. She's going to drop bombs. It's Barbara Heller.
Yay. Love it.
What's up, everybody? Let's rip into this. I've been loving when we've been coming together and doing these quick increments. I say quick because they're around 30 minutes of just really getting into the pulse of what people want to know when it comes to mental wellness. How's everybody feeling out there?
Feeling good.
Really good.
Happy to be with you guys. Really happy to be with you.
We're getting better. We are getting better. I asked us how we were doing like 3 weeks ago, and everybody stared at everybody. This time I said, how are we doing? And everybody talked at the same time. It was great. All right. Hey, so listen, we talk about some sensitive topics. We're talking about, for all of you that are sending in topics and questions about mental wellness and just everything that's going on in the planet right now. So with that, we have to read a quick disclaimer.
Dun, 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 dun.
Old school paper. The content heard here today is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare providers. Any question they may have regarding a mental condition or other potential mental illness, never discard professional medical advice relating seeking because something you heard in this little video today.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen. Now,
Nice job.
thank you very much. We have questions from the audience. Should we just start ripping into this?
Yes.
Let's go Gangnam style. Okay. So first one, this one could be a 4-hour seminar. So I can't wait to drop it here and see what the pros have as far as their opinions on this. How do I handle the overexposure to the negativity of the news and social media that I see all day long? I can't stop thinking about it. Ooh. I mean, this could be for kids, this could be for teens, this could be for their parents, this could be for grandparents, like between the news, which is nonstop, all these apps from everything from TikTok all the way to the most professional of LinkedIn. There's no end to them. There's constant scrolling. I'm going to paraphrase and probably destroy it, but I remember that there was a recent study somewhere where it's like 0.8 of a second that your brain decides whether you want to swipe or watch. And so, I mean, this is this mentality, this microwave, quick popcorn, explosive, feeding to the ADD type mindset potentially. I don't know. That's with the social media, with the media. Have you ever seen anything happy on the news besides like your local sports team winning 3-2? Like, not me. I don't know. So I want to drop it to you guys. What do you guys got on this?
I'll jump in. This makes me think of, in terms of an answer, Bob Newhart on Saturday Night Live many, many years ago. Like, I wasn't around when it was going on, but this whole time, just look up Bob Newhart and the word stop.
Hollywood psychologist.
Exactly. And he was playing a psychologist on SNL, Saturday Night Live, and he says, someone comes in, she's like, I'm really having a hard time, and he goes, stop it. And he just keeps saying stop. And like, that's it's a 5-minute therapy session, and it makes you laugh so hard because that's what I want to say to everybody. Like, get off your like, how do you stop? You stop. And what I would replace them this time, scrolling with is meditation and prayer, making space, as Dr. Joe Dispenza would say. There's an incredible amount of space in the world when we allow it in. And the only way we can be receivers and magnets for blessings in our life is if we actually create the space. The person you need to call you for the opportunity, for work, for health, for love, for all the things that you want to bring into your life cannot get in if you are doing this. There's only one or the other. You have to make space for blessing. And the way that we do it is by, I believe, this is, two of my personal things, is prayer, meditation, and then utilizing what you learn from that session with God, divine, creator, whatever you want to call it, and community and all the stuff that's coming up for me in terms of mental health, mental wellness, and then creating something and lifting it up. That's I think one of the best ways to deal with. And I'll just end with this. One of my high school students that I was working with a couple months ago, we were writing a show based on what we got out of our meditations, which is most of my work. And they were like, what's the most important thing? I guess getting off TikTok. This came from them. It was the first day. I said, what does every single high schooler in the country, in the US, need to know today? What would you tell them if you had 5 minutes on the microphone? And she said, get off of TikTok, but it's too late for me. These are her words. TikTok has already ruined my mind. That is what she said. I'm just going to drop that there. And I don't agree with her. And I said, I'm up for the challenge. I'm going to help you change your mind. And we did. So
great. I'm glad you did. You know, I want to join with that and say that not only would it be wise to remind them to meditate and to pray, but to get in touch with the elements of nature. Because when we find ourselves staring at the TV or a computer and we're picking up on all of the information that may be coming at us in hyperbolic and high-speed ways, we are losing the mirror neurons, right, Haley, where we're not actually seeing into the eyes of another person and getting a sense of connection, which happens biologically. So put down the computer, turn off the TV, and look into the eyes of someone that you really care about. Get in touch with the elements of nature. Feel the sun on the back of your neck. Feel the cold wind on your face, because you're going to be generating all sorts of neurotransmitters that are going to make you feel connected to people and to the world at large. And that's where you're going to find yourself really healing as well as connecting.
I feel like that was a very scientific love song, what you just said. If you when you watch it back.
Scientific love song.
Yeah.
I love that. But I agree with you 100% that you know, we've lost touch with nature as an element and each other. You know, when I talk about the platform to give great voice is to be able to move, touch, and impact with your voice. And that's IRL or even Zoom to a human to a human. So there's this need, you know, how many times does your phone ever ring and there's somebody who actually is calling you because they're thinking of you? It's mostly just a quick message on Facebook or, you know, we got to chat soon. But, you know, when does that chat ever take place? And I really made a point when I get stressed and when I notice that I'm just distracting myself, like, who can I call today that needs to hear my voice? And who, by having that conversation, I know that I will get something out of it. So I actually have a list now of one person a day that I want to call, literally call. And just say, how are you? And I've been having conversations with old friends and new friends and 2 years later, and you know, you just pick right up. But it's that act of making a desire to connect on that human to human level where we get to release the dopamine, because otherwise we're just in our own world. But that makes for so much loneliness. There's so much loneliness because we're not doing what we were designed to do.
Just remember that the other in your life might be a person, it might be a pet, but it could also be nature itself.
Three others to help you disconnect, to reconnect.
I'm just laughing to myself because as you're saying this, I'm thinking that in today's world, people are on the other end going, why is Tasia calling me?
It's true. It's almost like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to call you. I missed you. You know, it's like,
you're the real deal, though.
Aberration.
I don't think we've ever really texted. Anytime we've ever conversed, it's picking up the phone because that's how you do, right? So,
well, she gives great voice.
There you go. Haley, what do you got on this?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
So I'm so glad, Tasia, that you brought this up, that it's a different world right now. So I have 2 young kids, and for the past 2 years, they've been home a lot more than normal, and I'm trying to work from home as well. And so I have become very dependent on media and YouTube and video games for helping me raise my kids. I'm the first to admit it, right? And as a neuroscientist and psychology professor, like, I know that I shouldn't be doing that, but it's reality here. And so we can put out all of these great big things like, yes, let's pray, let's meditate, let's go walk around barefoot in our neighborhood. But the reality is how many people who are hearing this right now are really, truly hearing it, right? And able to actually do that. And one thing that I think we all have to keep in mind is that the social media, the actual media, all of that, it's entertainment. right? So they're making money on our behaviors, and people who make money are probably really good at what they do. So they know that they're putting content out there that is going to attract people, that is going to get our attention, get our focus, and also give us those dopamine hits and give us that rush of, hey, this is fulfilling, this is satisfying, and I'm going to keep binging it, or I'm going to keep watching it, or I'm going to keep scrolling, because if they lose us, then they're losing money. So we have to keep in mind that, and I'm not saying that it's evil. I mean, you just have to look at it for what it is. It's entertainment. So just like you can easily turn off a movie, or you can say 2 hours, the movie's over, however long, hour and a half, whatever. The movie is, it's done. Now I'm going to go do something else. We have to set time limits on these entertainment sources, right? So, and many people, myself included, if I don't have an alarm, I will find myself scrolling for hours and not sleeping and not going to the gym and not going out in nature and not calling my friends. So just being aware and cognizant of the fact that these are can be so damaging. I'm not saying all of it, because it can actually be quite beneficial as well, but it's because they're good at what they do, which is to draw us and to keep us there. So knowing that, say, okay, well, I need to be better for myself. So how am I going to do that? I need to set these boundaries, and I'm going to do this at X, Y, Z ways, set an alarm, ask a buddy to call you to interrupt, time it with your child's nap schedule or whatever it is, so that you can have your time to binge and do your things, but have those clear boundaries, because we have lost touch with many of those things that, my generation and my parents and older have been able to, I know my kids, they don't, if they're given the choice, go outside and play or go play a video game, they're going to play a video game. And it's sad.
So Dr. Haley, I want to mention one very important word that you had said as our resident neuropsychologist, or as our resident neurologist and neuroscientist, which is dopamine hit, right? And so when your children decide whether they'd rather play outside or watch the TV, they're going by the dopamine hit in their brain, which means that when we tell them no more, they're going to go through a withdrawal.
Yes,
not unlike withdrawals from other drugs, because we have an endogenous addictive system in our brain stems, which means we need to help them become addicted to other things like nature and sports and connection with people and connection with animals. And so it doesn't mean they can't get the dopamine hit. It means we redirect it for something healthier.
And it's work. And it has to cut, like, if we're talking about children, it has to come from me. I have to also be willing to say, okay, I need to stop these patterns of behavior and create new patterns of behavior, create new habits, utilizing what I know about dopamine and learning, and be able to do that with my kids. It's not going to be hey, okay, Charlie, go read for 20 minutes. No, it's not going to happen. Right. So I need to reinforce, reward, take baby steps, and it will get there. But it's not going to happen overnight. And I think we all have to be realistic about that.
I think the scary part about this is that we're having an adult conversation with people that have alphabet soup in front of their names, because you have so many doctorates and, and we're fully aware and fully formed. We're talking about so many young, impressionable children who are still growing and learning, and this is their new normal, right? So, I mean, if we have a hard time as adults regulating ourselves, how can we have this expectation for the children?
And also, how is it affecting their ethical and moral character? For instance, like, I put out this five questions to ask yourself to stop recreating cancel culture. And I know we could talk about cancel culture for like 3 of these.
Yeah, that's a whole seminar.
But the last question is, to me, the most important one. And this was like a direct download after like a meditation on this stuff. So I don't really feel like I should take credit for it myself. In fact, I'm sure I've read it before in a Jewish text. But the question is it really worth it to hurt anyone by sharing more about what happened? And the reason why I bring it up is because they did studies on, like, if you go through just the reels or the shorts on Facebook right now, forget TikTok, just go to Facebook where old people are on it, right? That's like the old person Snapchat. There are 4.5 million hits on the following types of videos: embarrassment, mutilation, vulgar violence. And you see someone like, you can also at the same time see like a homeless person getting fed that also has millions of views, but there are these two extremes. And my question is, and I know we could go on for this for hours, but how much is that hurting us to go to those binge watching sessions? I find it myself like, why am I watching this? This is awful. And like, I actually have to put the phone down, and I talk about morality and ethics all day long. I'm not perfect at it at all, but I like to study it because it keeps me in check. Where are the kids learning ethics and morality today?
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me that they're doing this. I mean, you drive down a road and you see an accident. It's innate. We're going to look, right? But the question then becomes, throughout a course of a day and how we've evolved is not to have all of those accidents constantly happening every 30 seconds where we're like, ooh, look at this accident, look at this, look at this, right? And so it's one of those things where those big questions, where does this morality and ethics and teaching not only our children, but ourselves and our grandparents, right? We can still question these things. And how is that changing us and our opinions and views on life? And I think we need more longitudinal research to actually see the data and see, is it really as detrimental as we think it is? For instance, I've seen studies that actually say certain video games are actually really good for the brain and can help with attention and focus and hand-eye coordination and things like that, that our children are excelling in certain tasks that I wasn't afforded because I wasn't playing video games and doing all of these things. So I think we have to look at and see what the data actually shows.
Well, what we do know about the trauma piece is that many of our kids are becoming morally and ethically jaded or inured to what they're seeing in their games or what they're watching in the news. And so if you drive past a scene on the road, you might have once stopped and looked. At this point, you might drive right past it because it's unfortunately something that you are now used to, and it doesn't move you the way it used to. And that's why the research has to help us get back to nature.
There's a desensitization. We're being desensitized, and our kids are, what used to be shocking to us is no longer shocking. And we as adults, at least again, when we were in those formative years, were sensitized to that. And our kids are growing up thinking this is just normal, part of life. And that what used to be horrific, that's not so bad, even because you also have your, again, like the movies that they watch. I mean, what we used to watch as a horror movie is now like PG, related to what these kids are seeing. And it's, I can't watch it, and I'm sensitized to it, but that's because I have a reference point. But if I grew up with thinking that this is, after you lose perspective. So it's very challenging and somewhat scary, because these are going to be the next generation. And how will the empathy factor and the compassion factor work when everything's against it? When you say, a horrible thing to someone by text, like you look fat or you're stupid, and then you don't have to see their eyes and what the effect that you gave to them, then you don't have that accountability factor. It used to be that when kids got out of school, they all talked to each other. Now they are looking over each other's shoulders at the phones. So so this is something that really concerns me, and I think about a lot, like how can we keep compassion and empathy going?
I almost feel like it's like fire. Like fire's not good, fire's not bad. Fire can heat your food, fire can burn down your house. It's how you use the fire, and to use it in moderation and be careful with it. The problem is, who's governing any of this? And who's, like Haley was saying, putting a cap on it, and most people don't do that. So fire's out of control. It's raging. So I don't think we're going to find an answer on this today, but I think what we did do was bring some awareness and some interesting perspective to that. But we got to move on, because we have a few minutes left, and we have another question. This was going to be a tough one because it's kind of vague, and it's another one where I'm sure there's lots of opinions on it. It looks like it's coming from a parent, and it's about peer pressure. It says, I'm seeing peer pressure even in my 4-year-old, same with my older child in school. Doesn't go too much into what, but I mean, it's peer pressure cesspool out there nowadays. So, I mean, in general, what are some thoughts here about peer pressure, and especially for, I feel like the whole show is geared towards our youth.
I want to jump in very quickly because it's compelling me to say a few things. Number one, we must teach children that they have indeed a sense of self, and that they are able to speak up for what they believe in. And for those of us that have children who don't really have confidence and faith in what they believe in, we tiptoe with them through the sensory world. We ask them questions like, why did you choose this to wear today? And what's your favorite color and why? And when we do this, we help create, as Barb likes to discuss, a sense of core values and core beliefs. And then we our child, they're going to be in this world cohort that are going to disagree with you tremendously, and you have to decide whether you stand for or don't stand for these things. And when you can stand for them, what you're learning is to deal delicately with indelicate people, to deal perfectly with imperfect people. Not everyone's going to agree with you, but that doesn't mean you have to follow their credos.
Thank you, Norman. That was a beautiful statement, and thanks for the nod. I agree with you, and I echo your words all the time, because you are, what I love about your work is that you infuse all of your videos and what you share with ethics as well. And, you know, that's always top of mind for me, working with kids for so many years, thousands at this point, 100 schools and camps. And I'm always the elective teacher. And so I get a little bit more wiggle room in what to say and what, you know, how to get kids to express themselves. But I've been seeing more and more. And I mentioned this PDF that I created, 5 questions to how you can stop cancel culture, because it is so rampant, and it is definitely creating a lot more peer pressure amongst adults especially, and it's trickling down to kids. And I think the kids feel and absorb parents' fear of, I can't say this in front of the teacher or in front of the school board. We're seeing all these videos now, whether you're completely on the right or completely on the left, there's not a lot of middle. There's not a lot of this thing called conversation, where it's like the school board against the parents and the parents against the teacher and the teacher against the kids. And there's so much warring since we've been home for so long, and thinking, finally having a chance to reflect on, how is school going? How is education going? And it's a great opportunity for us to say, can we bring the big C back into school, back into the classroom, back into the car when you pick your kids up from school, and say, can we have a conversation about what's going on and how you feel about it and what you're standing up for? Or are we just going to say, the principal gets to choose, the teachers unions get to choose, the parents get to choose? Parents are being called terrorists right now because, you know, they want certain values taught in the classroom. And I'm not on either side. I'm just watching it all. But I think that it's a great conversation to have, like, how did we get to this point? And if it's happening with the adults, of course, all the more so it's going to happen with the kids. And put them in front of this kind of screen at night while you're doing your own thing. And how many minutes of real time and real conversation did you have where you weren't doing this to your kid? Just one. How often do you do that? They're not being given what you just asked, which is, how many times are you asking them, how do you feel, and really making a space and being present to them. And so to me, that is a great cocktail for having kids be unkind to each other and having one bully that gets to speak out and having a tyrannical, you know, situation. So we have a lot of work to do in, again, making space.
I love this question. I resonate with it so much. So I have a 4-year-old and I have an 8-year-old. I've talk about them all the time on this show. And I see the peer pressure with my 8-year-old. I expect that. 2nd grade, you know, starting to figure out who he is, what the different kids are saying and doing, and what kind of sports does he want to do, what's he's good at, you know, things like that. I was expecting that. But recently my 4-year-old is saying, well, what are my friends in school doing? Why? And I'm just like, why do you care? You're still in preschool. I mean, you're not even in kindergarten yet. This is way too early to start thinking about some of these things, but I've noticed it as well. And so something that I try to do is I want my children to feel empowered to make their own decisions and to know that they can always talk to me about anything and I won't judge them. That if they did something wrong, they can come and tell me and I will work through it with them and I will help them figure out a way to correct it, and to feel that empowerment for themselves, that I have a great voice and I want to give them that great voice. Tej, I'm using your platform and your words here, but one of the best voices that they can have is their own internal voice, and what they're thinking, what are they feeding their mind about who they are. And I think that once they truly value the strength and power of their own voice, then they won't have a problem making those decisions and being the leader instead of the follower. And this is something, I'm not saying my children are perfect at it, but I do work with these positive affirmations with them every night before bed while they're brushing their teeth. They're looking at themselves in the mirror. And yes, I'm having conversations with them, but most importantly, I want them to have conversations with themselves in a positive, healthy way, and saying that they're powerful and they're smart and they're funny and they're loved and all of these things to themselves so that they can truly believe it. So when they are faced with a decision at school or with their peers, they don't necessarily feel that pressure that they have to follow somebody else, that they can make their own decision, and whether people follow them or not it doesn't matter. They are comfortable with the decision that they're making and going forward. Now, of course,
Brilliant.
This is very idealistic. Is it actually happening in reality? Probably
It's
not.
good to try.
However, I'm working
It's good to
with
try.
them.
Right.
Yes.
I'm trying and I'm sticking with it. And hopefully by the time they're an adult, they're not going to have the same kind of self-esteem issues that I had, and that they're going to have their voice and their power and feel empowered, and hopefully help empower others earlier than it took me to figure out.
I love that. And I want to share that, the programming element, the hard drive is 0 to 7, right? That's the age that the kids we all download the information for our identities from who we see and how our parents treat each other, how they treat us, and how we treat ourselves. And if we could get them to literally affirm themselves early on, with again through habit. In other words, I don't know if everyone's seen Jessica's affirmations, but it's a viral video of a 3-year-old or 2-year-old, and she's in the mirror. Now I can do anything. I love my friends. I love my family. I love my hair. I love my life. I love my whole self. My house, and it went viral because of the unabashed love that she had for herself, that obviously her parents were affirming with her to have that kind of energy, really literally giving them permission to empower themselves with their words, with their body language. I mean, the power pose is a scientifically proven thing. You raise your dopamine, your testosterone 20% by holding this position for 2 minutes. This is a TED Talk of the neuroscience, and you lower your cortisol levels. So if we can teach them, Tony Robbins talks about not just using affirmations, but incantations, physicalizing it. So get them starting young, let them empower themselves, and that in itself will help in the day-to-day peer pressure, because they have the deep inner confidence that comes from self-empowerment, so that they can stand up for what they believe. And so it's not as much of like the outside, but that inside, which Haley talks about. But, get them loving themselves and empowering themselves early and continuously.
Can I say real quick? I want to thank Tasia, because she shared this with me a couple months ago. And so that's when I started working on these positive affirmations with my kids in front of the mirror, doing the Superman pose. And I asked them who's their favorite superhero. And my oldest was Captain America. So I was Captain Marvel, right? We were doing this back and forth, making it. This is how it all started because of your advice, Tasia. And I want to tell you, the first day of Charlie starting 2nd grade, so I'm like every other mother in America, taking pictures, right? And posting it on social media, doing whatever I'm going to do. And he said, wait, one more, mommy. And he stood in his Captain America pose and he goes, I am Charlie and I am loved.
Wow.
That is like,
and I'm like, if every 2nd grader can start school, the first day of school, if every human knowing that they are loved, like that's the one affirmation that he picked and he chose, and he did it on his own. So Tasia, thank you.
that's my
Well, I would also add, my favorite superhero is Tasia Valenza.
Oh, I love that. But listen, can we do this as adults? Like, how many of us start our days? Like, I have it on my mirror every morning. Today is an incredible day, successful, and I just say it out loud because I force myself before I get on my phone and I get into something that's going to take me down the rabbit hole. I say the affirmations and I power pose. So at least it's like I brush my teeth every day. All the things that I know are good for me, that's good for me. If everybody could spend a little self-love and self-empowerment in the morning to set the tone of the day, from the kids to the teenagers to the adults, what a world we would live in, because we would have our cups full. And it's not, see, so many people think that that's cocky and arrogant, but it's not. From a place
Self-love.
of self-love, we have so much more bandwidth for others when we give it to ourselves first.
Well, I am Mark. You are all loved, and this is the end of this episode because we just flew through. I mean, so many. We could literally do this one for a couple of days. We could do a whole
Good.
weekend and do a seminar on this because it's hard to get just all these questions in and really get so much great perspective in such a short amount of time. But you guys are great at doing it somehow. So, hey, listen, we got to roll, and we want you to know that you're loved, and we want you to know that you're special, and we want you to stop holding back and start playing all out and put your damn phone down and start being awesome, right? Boom! So, for Tasia, for Barbara, for Dr. Haley, for Dr. Norman, for the eye candy, just kidding, baby, for me, hey, we want... Why are they laughing? I don't understand. Hey,
Because
listen.
you're so darn adorable.
We are out of here. We are out of here. We will see you guys next week. Stay encouraged. Stay well. You guys are awesome from the MBVS show. We will see you next week. Peace out.